That's in Putnam County, Florida. A miracle happened last Thursday. They called the Department of Homeland Security at the Atlanta airport, and they said, do you have a warrant for a woman named Lou Kesta? And yes, we did. They said, well, we're gonna grab her, she's about to board a flight for Nigeria. All right, that woman, we don't even know all the particulars of this, but she convinced somebody here in Putnam County, and I'm not gonna identify any victims, nor am I gonna give you anything that would identify any victims. But she convinced that person to invest in Elon Musk's company. And over a period of less than 3 months, that lady either sent gift cards or wire transfers for $280,000. And that money went into this woman's account in a bank in San Antonio, Texas. Now, she's not talking to us. And all we can prove is the money went into her. We can prove that. It went into her account. And that's the first one we've caught like that in years. Because usually, there's no way to trace them. So, I'm just going to go over a few of these cases. The most prolific one of all is guess what? You get a call from who? The sheriff's office. And they tell you missed jury duty. Okay? All right. The real sophisticated ones will spoof the number of the sheriff's office. And you know what I mean when I say spoof the number? Okay? Those of you don't, that number that shows up on your phone is going to be 706-485-8557, the main one of the sheriff's office. There's a software program where they can do that. So it looks like it's, if you know the number of the sheriff's office, okay. And the real sophisticated ones will use the name of the deputy, a real deputy, because it's not hard to, Most of these calls, guess where they originate? No.
Philippines.
No. The Georgia State Prison System. And they are talking to you on a cell phone that they're not supposed to have. And they know the names of deputies because the deputies put them there. And these are burner phones, of course, that we can never trace. And it ranges anywhere from $900 to $8,400. Now, number one, if I have a warrant for your arrest, okay, we are not going to call you. There will be a black and white car. If it's real serious, it'll be my black Suburban. Come to your house and take you away. We'll be very nice about it. But that's what's going to happen. Mr. Jones is totally wrong in this thing he sent you in your email, that my career of over 40 years. This month, I have been in this business as some kind of police officer for 52 years and 3 months. Wow. Not long after I graduated from this university. I'm not going to say I hope, but not long after that, when I was 18, I began my career in Bullitt County in 1974. In April 74. But in all of my career, working in DeKalb County chief deputy sheriff of Baldwin County and your sheriff for the last 30 years. Okay? I have never, nor has anybody that worked for me, ever arrested anyone for missing jury duty. That has never, ever, ever, ever happened. The worst that does happen is sometimes, most judges don't, some judges do. And this happened fairly recently, we had a really poor showing of people for jury duty. And the list of people that didn't show up, the court will give to me, okay? And then I first checked that list, okay? Because, first of all, we don't know where the jurors come from anymore, other than it comes from Atlanta over the computer. And in every jury pool of 100 or 150 people, there will be 8 or 10 convicted felons who can't serve on the jury. There will be people who are wanted, usually 2 or 3 that warrants are for, okay? There will be 4 or 5 illegal aliens. And no one can explain to us where these names come from, okay? And so we weed those out, okay? And then I'll normally, and I do this myself, if it's not something I give somebody else. And then we go through there and we'll see people that move, and we see people who die. And it'll end up being 10 or 12 people, actually, out of the 40s, something didn't show up. And then what happens is a deputy, he one of them rat in white collar, is gonna come to your house, and you're not gonna get the subpoena in the mail that time. They're gonna put it in your hand that says, come to court on a certain day. Okay? And then the judge will ask you, why were you not in that? I strong, Mr. Jefferson. If that happens, do not lie. Do not, well, I've never seen anybody go to jail. I think I've seen a few that got close. Yeah, whatever your excuse is, tell them. And the biggest excuse now is the U.S. mail. And who the hell knows? I could mail something from here to Shadydale, and it may take 6 months to get there. I'm not joking. I mean, so that's usually the case. There's seldom that somebody, I saw one person one time said he just wasn't going to serve on the jury, and he changed his attitude when he thought he was going to go to jail. But that was his first excuse. So how on earth anybody would think that if you got a call like that, and they, on top of that, it's even more confusing because they usually say, this is Sergeant Harvey with the sheriff's office, and you missed federal grand jury, federal jury duty. Well, hell, if it was federal jury duty, it'd be a U.S. Marshal that did, but he's not one of us. We don't have anything to do with the federal court system. But, you know, and they'll tell you, don't bring the money to the sheriff's office. Go to a Bitcoin machine, okay? Or go get gift cards and or green dot cards or something like that. The common denominators with every one of these cases, Bitcoin, number 1, okay? Number 2, green dot. Number 3, whatever kind of gift card it is, okay? And they want you to give them that number off that card, and there's no way, that's it. They go, that's the end of it, it's gone. And lastly, wire transfers of the bank. We finally passed some laws now. If you go up to your bank today, hopefully, at least here in Putnam County, and you're gonna wire $30,000 to somebody, and you're over 70 years old, your bank hopefully is gonna call our office. Okay? And that's just the laws have been enabled to do that. I'm gonna try to get a law passed where there are no Bitcoin machines. I've actually taped letters on my letterhead on these few machines we have. And after I did that, they would tell people, don't go to Conyers or go to Milledgeville, don't go here with your, don't use the machine for me. I cannot imagine why anyone would think that a law enforcement agency would call you and tell you to send money, thousands of, I can't grasp that, okay? Let me tell you something, it's not all elderly people. When I looked over all these cases last night, and up till just I left, I was still, the average age is about 59. It's not people that really are old people. I had one individual who was 34, wired away, $79,000, one week. And the jury duty is the number one scam. The number two scam is your granddaughter or your grandson is in jail somewhere. If they're in jail, if somebody calls you, call our office. We'll find out if they're in jail. Okay. But that's the number two most prevalent. Number three, things for sale on Facebook, especially cars. Okay. I like old cars. Y'all probably have seen my 48 Chevrolet Patrol car. I lead the Dairy Festival parade with it. But I also I've had various cars. I've got a 51 MGTD, if you know what that is. Remember the car, Love Story? That's the guy I had. I didn't think he got no good looking girl. Other than my girl. But I have decided I want me a Corvair. Ralph Nader was a liar. There was nothing wrong with the Corvair. Nothing different about a Corvair than there was a Porsche or a Volkswagen at the time. But I decided I wanted a Corvair. And so I want a particular one because I'm there to get it. And I want a 1965 or 1966 Corvair Corsa convertible with a turbocharged engine. And I don't have any miles, they didn't make many of them. So I've been looking for one of those. Now, my wife says I gotta sell the 51 MGT, which I will. Okay. So here, a couple of weeks ago, on one of these sites that you go looking for antique cars, and popped up, there it was, red. 1965 Corsa. The Corsa was the top of the line. It had a clock in it, and all kind of, it had all these little accessories. That was the top of the line. And the turbocharged engine, 180 horsepower, outran Porsche in races in Europe. And it said it was an all-Benny, not all, but all-Benny. So it had an address on there, and it was something, I couldn't find the street on the tax assessor's website. But I thought it might have been on base. There's a Marine Corps base in Albany. And so I emailed the person, I said, very, very interested in this car. Well, I didn't get a response. So that was on Friday, so I did it again on Saturday and Sunday. I said, I'd like to come look at the car. And then I still never got anything back, and that was on my personal email account at that time. I didn't get anything back. And so on Monday morning, I sent another email. And I said, but that time I wasn't paying attention to what I did. I sent it from the sheriff's office. It came from Sheriff Seals at Putnam County Sheriff's Office. That afternoon, I got a sorry, car sold. No, did I give up? No. So Jana, my evidence technician, Jana Waddell, I don't know if y'all picked up some of them, Jana, I went back and said, Jana, let's go on this website again. Well, I went on that website again, and guess what? Oh no, that car was there, and guess where it was this time? New Jersey. Same car, same picture, same everything, different persons, name, and it was in New Jersey. And it was the same car. And so I had Jana, on using her personal email her. Right. Well, there was a woman, and guess where she was? She was in Asia. She said she was working, she was a college professor, she was in Asia doing some research. And that Jana needed, she told all about the car, and that Jana needed to work fast, because what she needed to do was to send that, wire that money to this email address of this auto broker, and then she would have it delivered to wherever. No mention of what it's gonna cost to deliver, okay? And so Jana answered her back. And Jana said, well, I'm looking this up, trying to help my boss. He's the sheriff. He's looking for a car like this. And, he'll be contacting you. You ain't heard nothing. I'm still looking for that, Rick. But that's how easy it is. I bought a lot of cars online. Most of our detective cars that I have, the sheriff's office has, I bought them online. But we always have somebody go look at them. I thought I got hooked one time. Back, let me see, I don't remember. I've only had 4 or 5 cars in 30 years. And you never paid for one of them. It's always paid for by money we took from criminals. And anyway, I was looking for it, and I always have a Suburban with 4-wheel drive. And I got online, and I found one, that was listed by a car dealer in Wisconsin at an extraordinarily good price. And almost too good a price. And I inquired about it, and it turned out to be a car show car. You know, like General Motors has these car shows in Los Angeles and all around the country. And it was a car show car is what they told me. So, not trusting anybody, even though I learned that from the dealer, I called a friend of mine who was a rep for General Motors. And I said, what, he said, he said, yeah, he said, that's a good deal. Those are really good deals. Said, but the driver's seat on the left side is gonna wear out. He said, because you have no idea how many thousands of bucks went across that. And he said, sometimes the hinge on the door. But anyway, the car had 7 miles. It was over a year old, and they wanted $31,000 for it, and it was at that time a base model state contract price for a new one with just rubber mats and clean that air conditioning like that was like $36,000 even back then. So it was $5,000 less than the base. So I went ahead and did it. Well, guess what? The guy talked back to the dealer. He said, well, it's in Los Angeles. We're going to have to ship it back to Wisconsin, then we'll ship it to you. We agreed to split the cost of the shipment. And that was $300, believe it or not. And anyway, I said, don't make it sense. He goes, I'm sorry, but here, you know, I graduated from Mercer University. Los Angeles, Wisconsin, and back down here ain't the closest route. So he said, well, we'll ship it to Auto Transport, which is where new cars come in up in Atlanta. That's where they unload the trains and things like that. And but anyway, week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, no car. I called the sheriff up in Wisconsin where the car dealership was. I said, you know this? I said, well, listen. I'm getting ready to come up there and hurt somebody. I spent $31,000 on a car and I don't have it. And the sheriff himself told them. Anyway, went out there, and the way they did this was very strange. They put out a bid to do a transport, and they wait for somebody who's got an empty spot on his car office. And
they called me back, and I was actually able to talk to the person who was, had the car, and he was, guess where he was from? Right here. And he brought it to the sheriff's office, on his way home, but I didn't have to go to all the trains. But I just give you those examples, because where I bought the car, and that just happened to me with that Corvette. The next most popular is, the grandchild in jail, and the others are things like, investments. You know, they call you and say, your bank account has been compromised. And then you need to do this, you need to transfer that, we're gonna close out, they'll say they're the FBI, they'll say they're a bank examiner. They'll say, if you get a call like that, you call your bank, hopefully it's a local bank where you can actually, call it something. The bank has certainly changed a lot over the years. But those are the next one will be rental scams. Somebody wants to rent a house somewhere, and they see a house advertised for rent, that they just pulled a picture off of Zillow or something like that, and they're renting this house, and you send them the first month's rent, and stuff like that, and you get there, and they didn't own the house, they didn't rent it. We had one victim last year, over $900,000. This was a highly educated professional person. That was the biggest one. The cheapest one was $65 for an Apple Watch. We were gonna pay for it, they didn't get it. But the biggest one was a little over $900,000. And we try, we always try, but nobody's ever gotten a penny, ever. We try to get the feds to help us work some of these, and they won't. Because there's a host of federal laws that are violated, but they're not gonna work it unless it's $8 million or something. But we try on each one of these. But usually it ends up overseas, or once you give them that gift card number, okay, then it's just, this woman we arrested last Thursday, we picked up at the airport. I think that's a much bigger case than just this. So we're hoping maybe when our attorney, we're hoping maybe our attorney will let her talk to us, so she just closed up, she won't say anything. So you have no idea how much it upsets me to know that you lost $1,000. And it literally almost brings me to tears, somebody loses hundreds of thousands.
What about contractors down here? I've heard there's a lot of contractors here that do that.
Yeah. But usually that ends up being a civil matter, okay? We have had a couple of okay, let me try to show you, let me tell you how that works. I come to build your house, or build your dock, or put a provision on your house. And if they want money up front, you call somebody else, okay? That's all you need to know. Tell them you want to see their state contractor's license. Okay? And they don't have one, you don't do business with them. But they want money up front. That means they're not in good shape, right? We never do that. But what happens with these people is we had one couple that they lost $30,000 and turned right around and lost another couple of hundred. After they got ripped off their birthday.
Was it the same guy?
No, different guy. They probably knew each other. But what I'm saying is, you hire me to redo your bathroom, and I come in there and I work for 2 or 3 days and I just quit and don't come back. We cannot arrest that person, okay? That's a civil matter, okay? But if you pay them up front and they don't do anything, we're gonna arrest them, okay? That's theft, okay? But if it's a breach of contract and they did do some of it, Sometimes there are an exception to that when there is a history of the person doing this, they have a criminal history of doing that. But usually, they know they're gonna come in and do, and they know they're not gonna. But they know they can't be arrested. And so your only alternative is to sue them, which means you have to sue them in the county where they live. Okay? And usually, they're gonna be what? 2 words, judgment proof. Which means they're not gonna own a thing that doesn't either have a lien on it. Y'all know Larry Porter, the tree man? Biggest group of people I've ever known didn't know Larry Porter. Larry Porter doesn't wear shoes, great American. You know that. Larry got ripped off, by somebody who would not pay him. I don't know, it was about like, he owed him $15,000. So Larry came to see me. I said, Larry, he's not gonna have a thing in this world. Nothing. And I said, I'll check. But he said, so go ahead and sue him, so in case, ever sells his house or something like that, there's any equity in it, you might get the money back in. But you'll get first in line, because I think there's gonna be some other folks. So he went and said this individual. And he came back and he had his spy pay. That's when you win the lawsuit and they give you a fiery faces, a writ of fiery faces, which means the judge's face is red. Literally, that's what it translates. Anyway, he came back with spy pay, and I said, well, we'll keep it. If he ever gets anything that we can attach, that means the sheriff goes out and levies. Okay? The black and white car comes and they have a court order and they take your stuff. And then we advertise it and sell it. Well, I said, this man, I checked, he did everything had a lien on it, the cars were leased, upside down on his house payment. And Larry Porter said, what about that GTO he got up there in the bond check? I said, what? He got a 68 GTO convertible up there in the bond. I said, Larry, you got a 68 GTO convertible? No, there's one up there. Well, I went out there at the man's house, did it myself. I said, you got a 68 GTO in that bar? He knew, because I already wrote a bar to look for him. Well, we took that GTO. You know what we sold it for? $14,880. And I told Larry Porter, this never happened. You have no idea how fortunate you are. So if this happened again, it ain't gonna happen. So that's what happens. Usually there's nothing to get after you get that judgment. But I encourage people to sue and have that judgment just in case they do acquire something that you can be levied on. But they've got to do no work at all to, pretty much, for us to be able to arrest them. If they take your money and don't do any work, they've got to have a license to do, and they've got to have a state license. So if they don't have that, we're having a warrant here tomorrow. These people won't listen to us, so they apply to get a warrant on their own for the man that took them for $200,000. They're not gonna get a warrant, because the guy worked on the house, he just didn't. He probably $60,000, maybe $80,000 worth of work he did. The court's not gonna be able to make that permanent. It's not. So watch out for those people. And of course, anybody who comes to your door selling anything has to have a license from Putnam County. Anybody.
Even the Girl Scouts?
I'm not gonna arrest the Girl Scouts. But if the answer is yes. I'm just not gonna arrest the Girl Scouts. But if it's not the Girl Scouts, they gotta show you that license, and they're not gonna have that license. Okay. If they're gonna sell you pine straws, they're not gonna have that license. There are companies here in Putnam County that do have, that do are legitimate business. But when they come to your house and say, we got pine straw left over, they're gonna say they put out gonna tell you it's 300 bail, and it's $300 or something like that, and when you get through, a big guy's gonna come up there and say, no, we miscalculated, we put out 1,500, we need $3,000. They come there with a pine straw, call the sheriff's office. I will track them down like dogs. I will jump up from my desk and jump and leave people sitting in my office and tear out. If they come to your house and they say they are they've got leftover asphalt, okay? They are white gypsies from North Augusta, okay? Or Aiken County, South Carolina. If they come, it is a scam. They used to paint roofs silver on bars, they quit doing that. When I was a young deputy sheriff in Statesboro, times have changed in law enforcement. Mr. Paul Neville was the sheriff. He called me into I came to work one afternoon at 4 o'clock, and Mr. Paul had an M2 carbine. Anybody know what that is? That's one with a selector switch on it, full automatic or semi-automatic. He kept it in the corner by his desk over there, and he pulled it out and said, do you know how to shoot this, son? I said, yes, sir. And he said, don't pull that switch now, because this is a machine. I said, yes, sir, I know what it is. He said, go down there to 301 and Highway 46, 7-8 miles below Statesboro. He said, there where they straightened out the road and made a new intersection. And he said, over there where the old road is a truck. When them gypsies left over there with a load, with a tank on it full of that silver barn paint. He said, you know about this? Yes, sir. He said, you take this carbine down there and you shoot up that truck. And I said, sir? I'm not gonna say exactly what he said, but he told me, he asked me about my intelligence. And I'm not understanding order. And I said, yes, sir. And he said, if you shoot it up good, you put holes in that tank, go around the front, so be careful where you shoot, but you put 3 or 4 rounds in that radiator and try to bust that block. I said, yes, sir. So I went down there and I shot that truck all to hell. And you know, they said that stuff, when it rained, well, I know, used to, they've done it, some of my family here, boy, it would run all off, afterwards. But you know what? Every time for years, I went back down there and I looked and that truck was parked. That stuff stayed on the ground for years. That's a true story. So anybody comes call us, we will go hunt them, and usually they're wanted, okay? They're usually already wanted, but we can write them a citation. We can't arrest them for going door to door, but we can write them a ticket for a count. We used to have a law. Governor Nathan Deal and his wondrous criminal justice reform, they did away with that law. We can't arrest them anymore. All we can do is write them a citation. They have to go to court here, and the judge is he's gonna hammer them. He's giving $500,000 fine. He's gonna do it. Now, if they don't go to court, they can't go to jail. But we will write them that citation, and 9 times out of 10, when we stop them, they're not gonna have the insurance. Driver's license, there's gonna be something, or they're wanted, there's gonna be something to arrest them for. And so, no. No gift cards, no Bitcoin. Nobody calls you on the phone asking you for money. You call us. If the number is the number of the sheriff's office, we've had victims call the sheriff's office and say, do you have Sergeant Martin? And the dispatcher said, yes. On the street right now, and then they hang up because they think it's too late. You can ask to talk to me. I answer the phone if I'm not on the phone. Now, it might be tomorrow before I call you back, but what I'm saying is ask to speak to an officer about this. Okay? Hopefully the dispatcher's going to usually tell you it's a scam. Okay? They are usually, but don't hesitate to talk. Don't hesitate to report a crime. Okay? if they're out here going door to door selling Pine Straw, we stop them and they got a license, they don't say how much. They ain't gonna lie. If they did. But I caught, the last ones I caught myself a few months back, and they had some over here on, I was over there off of Ward's Chapel. And I rolled up in there and it was a brand, almost new pickup truck. Okay? And it had the trailer with Pine Straw on it, and the trailer had a tag. That's probably the first one I've ever seen that had a tag. We got two in the back of our airplane lot that don't have tags. We're gonna sell them too. Okay? And it had a tag on it, fairly truck. There were 3 guys in the truck. They all had on these bright yellow t-shirts like, like these yellow safety vests. So they were looking good. They looked professional. We didn't get charged with no tag, they had that. All 3 of them in the truck had brand new Georgia driver's license, brand new ones, with a Talbotton, Georgia address. I said, all 3 of y'all live these addresses in Talbot? I said, you always live there? No. I said, you used to live in Jefferson County, down there around Louisville. Every one of them did. I've never seen anything like it. 90% of the Pine Straw people are from Jefferson County, Louisville, White, down in that area. I called the sheriff down there and I said, how many of these people have we got to lock up, or how many of these people before they learn their lesson? He said, they don't care, Sheriff. They make so much money doing this, they could care less about $1,000. So that's just how profitable that is. And they went over there and got driver's license using some relative's address in Talbot County, just so it wouldn't show up that they were from Jefferson County. You know who they learned this came from? Working for the white gypsies in Aiken County, South Carolina. Well, they're actually Irish travelers. They're also English travelers, and we saw the first English travelers here this year. And they were doing a new kind of, when they had that temporary asphalt plant up on 441, they were doing that.
Yeah.
They came in here with 2 or 3 brand new looking dump trucks. I mean, real nice looking vehicles. And they were buying asphalt. Anybody could go up there and buy it. And then they would coming door to door saying, we'll do this. And we finally caught them. And we couldn't arrest them, all we could do. And they had come here originally from Connecticut. There are a lot of English travelers up there. And, I haven't seen Roman gypsies in years and years. The Roman gypsies are the European gypsies that olive complected. I went to gypsy school. Y'all think I'm kidding. I went to gypsy school. I worked at my last assignment in DeKalb County. Well, it wasn't my last assignment. I spent most of my time there in the intelligence unit. They thought I was intelligent, apparently. And I didn't argue with them. I'll tell you about my first day in the intelligence unit. All I knew was up there, nobody really knew what the hell they did. They were up there in the basement of the old magistrate court building, nobody really knew what they did. And everybody's kind of scared of them, And so my first day, the lieutenant told me to come in, at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, my teachers when I was little, they said I was a bright child. He's a bright child. Talks too much, but he's a bright child. And anyway, so I came in and Liverpool got with my lieutenant, and he got his big old Bill 98 undercover car. And we rode up to a strip joint on Chester Bridge Road. And we went inside. And we sat there while these performances went up. And we drank alcoholic beverages. And every now and then, Billy would say, go out there and write down all the tag numbers in the parking lot. So I'd go out there and write down the tag numbers in the parking lot. And I did that 4 or 5 times, and we stayed there several hours, and finally, we just talked, looked, did a lot of it, and we got up, we got back in that little whatever, we got back about halfway back to the office, and I said, Lieutenant, let me get this right. I said, we just stayed there in that strip joint all night. Did the county pay for our liquor? We sure did. So my teacher said I was right, child. I knew I had found my home in this county. And unbeknownst to me, we were there to identify people who were coming and going that were involved in some organized crime. Now, later on, that investigation took me all the way down to Beaufort County, South Carolina, on the day, kind of like yesterday, and had me on a shrimp boat with a pair of binoculars. And I wasn't looking at nothing pretty, it was hot as hell, so it was not what it came out to be. And okay, now, y'all ask me what y'all wanna ask me. Anything you want, get me while I'm here.
I got it.
Yes.
Can you tell us about the drowning?
We had 2 drownings this weekend, okay? First drowning was, down here off in, Nina, I've never known how to. Yeah, I've never been through Judy Ann, different ways.
You still stuff going to take a look.
We got a call from a couple, about 4 o'clock in the morning, 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, we got a call from a couple. And, deputy said they thought they heard somebody hollering for help, okay? And, so the deputy went and they met with the couple, and she said they told her, somebody said help. Thought they said, heard the name Kevin. And, they said they'd flagged down a boat, I don't know where a boat, it's fishing or something, 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and told the people in the boat about it, and, asked them to check. And I don't have enough person. We're still running a patrol boat on Lake Oconee, so I don't have enough personnel to run. We have sheriff's office used to run boats on both lakes. I don't have enough personnel. We have far more calls on Oconee than we have Sinclair, because there's a lot of idiots. No, I'm serious. There are a lot more calls out there than we do. The DNR will never not have one boat or something now, and so, but we haven't run the boat on Sinclair at all this year, and I just don't have anybody to operate it. And, so I said, go ahead, the deputy called me and told me about it, and, I said, go ahead and call DNR, and they couldn't get a hold of DNR for a while, and, I said, but go back down, look around. She said, well, I looked around best I can. I said, but go back down there at daybreak, see what you can see. Well, we went down there at daybreak, and they're walking around, and they encountered this individual who said, who appeared to be intoxicated, okay? Who said that, and say what? That he had woke up underneath a dock 2 or 3 houses down from his house. I woke up a lot of places, but I never woke up in the dock. And so we thought maybe that was, the deputies initially thought maybe that was the person. He said he couldn't find water. So the bottom line was there were people staying at their home there. And the people where he was up under the dock was a short-term rental, and they actually took a picture of him down there. So they got up and saw him and gave it to us. But anyway, the bottom line was there was a group of all of them adults at that house. Actually, the deed was in his title was in his mother. The man's 38 years old with his mother's house. They were there for the weekend, and there was a group of them down there on the dock, and 3 of them went back to the house at 11:30 and left Hoyt and Kevin down there. They went swimming. Didn't work out.
13?
No, he was 34. He was either 34 or 38. One was 30, the man, one was 34, one was 38. 13-year-old was at Putnam Beach on, this weekend got me off, because we had one in the holidays. But that one was a 13-year-old at Putnam Beach, and there's a buoy line out there, that marks off the This kid couldn't swim, but he was out there with some of his other friends, and he was holding on to that buoy line and eventually went under. Now, we don't know who actually got him off the bottom into the bank, but there was a nurse there, not part of that group who was there. And she started CPR. Holly Collins, well, my deputy, just happened to be real close by, because she was there about 2 minutes. And she and Holly and then Jim Barbie left his house and went over there. They all did compressions until the EMS arrived. And then the EMS, Holly called me, she said, I think he's dead, Sheriff. And, anyway, they transported him to Putnam General, and they revived him, they were breathing, and then they flew him to Macon. And then yesterday, at about 4 o'clock, they called and told me he died. That was, they interviewed me on Channel 13 today about this. You know, first of all, we've got more shoreline than any county in the state of Georgia, except for the coastal counties. We just have thousands of people that come. So it's not, you know, how many people, people don't realize that every Georgia football game, there are 5 or 6 people have heart attacks due to football. That's right. It's Apple Stadium, people don't even know that. So it's not really an enormous number, but they asked me what are the common denominators. And there are 3 common denominators are almost all drowning, okay? 1, can't swim, okay? If you can't swim, you better have on some type of flotation device, whether you're a child or you're a youthful young man like myself. Number 2, and some of these go together, alcohol. You may be the greatest Olympic swimmer in the world, but if you're drunk and kid around, you're probably not going to have to be up to par. Okay? And then lastly, reckless operation of a vessel. You see, I started out hymns with a thing called a paddle. Okay? And Joe DeRosa had a 3.5 horsepower Johnson. 3.5. A little gas tank on top. I graduated with it at some point in time. And then I graduated to one of them big old 9.9 flat top engines. I could go with that one. And then Gulliver Williams had a Larson with a 100 horse motor on it, and that was probably the biggest motor on this lake back in 1971 or so. But now they come down here from Atlanta, they don't know how to swim, they get on the damn jet ski, they'll go 80 miles an hour. And they never had a paddle. So that's just what happens. So those 3 things are the common denominators in all of this stuff.
So what makes it national news? Because I found out about Second my daughter in Arizona.
Sure, I have no idea how we become the news center of the earth. One reason is we are unique in Georgia, that we are covered by both the Atlanta and the Macon media market. Okay. And sometimes a little bit of Augusta. Used to, you didn't worry about the news media until we had Facebook and websites. The Edenton Messenger was not going to bother you until, I don't care if you had 3 axe murderers. They were not coming to the office until Monday or Tuesday. They're going to call you in 10 seconds from the time they hear it on the radio now, because they want it first. They want it on the Edenton Messenger's website. They want to get it out there. And then the next thing will be Macon or Atlanta or both. All day long, I have just one call after another from media about the second draft. Okay, and then what was the last time? I had a call one day last week. I'm trying to remember what case it was. Anyway, they said this was CBS News in New York. And I said, okay, I said, this is Putnam, I'm the sheriff of Putnam County, Georgia, not Putnam County, New York. And 9 Putnam counties in the United States of America. We were the first. All them other 8 cotton It causes tremendous problems. I have people call me up and cuss me like a dog about the trash on so-and-so pipe, and I go, you ain't got no pipe. Ain't no pipe. I bet you live in Cookville, Tennessee. Well, of course I do, Sheriff, you know where I live. You know, I know, because you're talking to the sheriff of Putnam County, Georgia. But if you Google Putnam County Sheriff, the first Putnam County Sheriff that comes up is us. We get civil processes to serve from lawyers in Ocala, Florida for things in Putnam County. But that, and they said, no, we know, I don't remember what the case was. And I just said, how in the hell is this national news? So I can't even explain that. I don't put it, we don't call the news media. I will call the news media to warn people about stuff. I will call the news media if some of my people have done something wrong. I'm gonna let them know first. But otherwise, we don't call the news media. They call them. How, I mean, it's amazing.
Cousin Molly was over there.
I mean, it's amazing to me where that comes from.
Do you list in the paper, the stuff that you got for sale that you confiscated?
Yes, ma'am.
So it's in the paper?
It'll be in the paper, and that ad will run for 4 weeks.
Oh, okay. And the
Now-
public can come and bid on anything?
But we don't have as much stuff as, well, let me say this, when we condemn something like that, we can keep it for official use, okay? In 30 years of being your sheriff, I bought one lawnmower. We've used lawnmowers that have the serial number ground off of them and stuff like that, and we can't sell those, all we can do is scrap, because it makes a lot of hassle. But we've used big riding mower that have the number scratched off. Finally, last year, they made me foul. Because we just hadn't found a good one in a long time. And cars, we a lot of times we'll keep cars, and use them like undercover for a while, and then eventually sell them. If it's one of those black and white cars, y'all, you do not want it. If it was one of our cars that we actually did, it'd blow out. Unless you don't plan on putting a motor and transmission in it, you don't want it.
You think we're ever gonna solve the legal
I
code?
don't know. I went again to Utah 2 months ago, put some more evidence out there to the private sergeants and forensics, and they found DNA yet again, but we still don't have enough to.
Are they trying that reverse
You
DNA?
got, this is how that works, okay? All right. You go with CODIS is the acronym for the Criminal DNA Database, okay? Which does not have as many people in it as you might think, okay? And then the genealogical evidence. You have to have 7 LOCs. These are chromosome markers. Don't ask me what it is beyond that, but you have to have 7 in order to digitize that and put it into that computer to match up with somebody that's in there, whether it be genealogical or whether it's not. The DNA samples that Othram and Sorensen, we sent all this to the state crime lab when the crime occurred. The GBI said there wasn't a deal. You know, I didn't want to tell the truth, but they were breathing when they tell them. But they said there wasn't any other than the Germans. Now, things may have advanced, I'm not being totally critical, because things may have advanced since then. But eventually, we took it to these private labs that you've probably seen in some of these crimes. But all we've been able to get are 4 LOCs. Now, if they say if I had a suspect, we might be able to do an absent of a suspect. But they've not stopped, not given up. I called the FBI and asked them to do something that they did 12 years ago, just recently, and to do it again, to make sure that they did it. You know, when you call somebody and you ask them to do something, they call you back and you take them to the word that they did. I mean, like, the Germans used to live out the Phoenix area. like on Maricopa County, and then the sheriff's office there, and the city police to check to see if they ever had a call or anything. Now, this was a long time ago when they lived there. And it involved in being kind. I never heard that. And you'd be surprised, a lot of police agencies today, the record retention for like incident reports and things like that is 20 years. And, they throw it away. Now, I guarantee you, we've got every report we've had for the last 30 years. You may have to give it a shown up dirty, dusty place to get something. Because we did lose some of what was on the computer, but we actually still have the handwritten, reports of those.
Do your sons ever touch base with you?
Yeah. Not, I talked to them probably.
Sure. Do you have a opinion on what happened?
I think so, first of all, we do not believe they were killed at their house. Ms. Derman was struck once, twice, maybe 3 times with something like a hammer, bigger than a normal hammer that you have at home, like a framing hammer, something like that, all the way into the brain. 2 times exactly, okay, maybe 3, but definitely 2. The pathologist said that, and I could see that. Okay? When I hit you like that, people, let me tell you something, people hard hit you. And I know, I've hit a lot of people in the head in my career, and it hurt your hand, not like a baby. And with that type of force, when you pull that hammer back, we're gonna have what's called cast off blood, okay? Sometimes it is minuscule, okay, sometimes it's not, but you're gonna have it. And we didn't have that anywhere in that house, okay? We know that Mr. Derman was his body was decapitated, and we know he was dead in that house. And we know that, I got news for you, he'll kill a hog, or kill a rabbit, or anything. Let me tell you something, you cut a human, I've seen it, you cut a human's artery up here, it pumps like a garden hose. And there will be blood, so definitely that was post-mortem after death. We do know his head was moved there in that garage. If I knew where they were killed, I probably would have had somebody in jail all the time. I don't believe there's no, the evidence contradicts the fact that Ms. Derman was killed. And we know she was transported at least 6 miles from the house where her body was thrown in the lake. So who knows where that was. We have tried, the FBI, every other sheriffs, everybody in the world, but I think that somebody came there that the Dermans had something that they wanted, okay? I believe Ms. Derman, we have some evidence to the effect, I won't say exactly what it is, but we believe she was assaulted first, and Mr. Derman was present at the time. And I believe it was one of those things like, whether it's my wife, and she don't tell us, and we're gonna do this, and they did it. I believe it was something like that they knew, and people wouldn't tell, or didn't have to let it work. Okay? It was not a professional hit job, it had no criminal background. The hitman comes to your house with a .22 magnum pistol, shoots you in the head, and he leaves. He does not clearly tie you up and put you on the bottom of the lake and not put enough weight on you where you don't come, stop you from coming back up. That's just not, they don't do that. There was some definite animosity towards Ms. Derman. Or it was like I said, it was something like that, but we just don't, we don't know.
Sure, so, I'm just curious,
My bridges, that's all.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's nothing, now you don't see anything. Was that a legitimate?
No.
The Lynch, it was the Lynch garage,
It was what?
the Lynch garage years ago.
I arrested the man that operated that. He had over $150,000 worth of stolen property. I arrested him myself. He pled guilty in
I
court.
knew something was going on there.
He pled guilty in, his name was Reno Bowe. He pled guilty in court, gave me the ugly look. I gave him 2 years probation, or 5 years probation. Gave me the ugly look, and left the courthouse and went and did what? Straight in the courthouse and did what? Voted. That didn't make me. And you know, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I don't know where we're at with that.
So was it a chop shop or
It
something?
had a bunch of stolen vehicles there, stolen trailers out of, but I got a skid steer stolen in Atlanta. I got 2 pieces of Caterpillar equipment stolen, one was stolen in Texas, one was stolen in Louisiana. A big gooseneck trailer that was stolen in somewhere in Texas.
You know where you take the back way into town? You know, and you come to a stop sign, and you have to make a turn to get to the post office. There's a little mechanic shop right there. It used to be flooded with cars, all of a sudden it closed up, there was nothing. It's because it was a chop shop.
No, last time I did is that, does the county have the, cameras on the lights or,
We have, what kind of cameras?
the cameras on the, if you're going red light detection? And what about the city?
There's just been some new laws that will affect about that too.
They can stop doing that?
They're trying to curtail it. I don't have a problem with the cameras that belong to me, I don't mean me personally. Our problem with these things are that they belong to these companies, and these companies get 80% of that money. I don't know if there's a lot. But the new law went into effect, I mean, I was gonna have it ready, because we don't have it here, so, that curtails that, therefore, we do have cameras on our school buses for running, school board, running school. But even those cameras, you still have to prove who's driving. It's the weirdest thing, you get one of those speed tickets in the camera, okay? If you pay that administrative fine, not a court fine, okay? You send a check to that company in Tempe, Arizona, okay? You will not get any points on your driving license. And that company's gonna get 80% of that money, and the county will get 20%. But if we write you a ticket, you don't get points on your driving license. So tell me how that's like. And I'm never gonna have one of those, I'm forced to have, I mean, they may pass a law, I guess. I'm not gonna participate. I had a friend one time come in to see me, and he said, I got this thing in the mail, and they told me this. It was, the city of Campbellton, Florida. It was a return address in Cincinnati, on my board. So I looked up who the Campbellton, Florida police department. I couldn't find the Campbellton, Florida police department. You almost Google it, they come something, but there wasn't one. And then I looked up Campbellton, Florida, no city hall, no. And I looked up, and it was in Jackson County, which is over near, I can't remember the county seat, it's over there near Mariana. And I called the sheriff's office, and I said, y'all give me the number for the Campbellton Police Department, and the dispatcher laughed. I said, they got no police department. I said, well, give me a number maybe for the city hall. Well, they got city hall, there's nobody in it. They got one red light, when the speed, red light camera. Yes, they got red light camera. So I ended up talking to the chief deputy, I know it's coming. They don't have it.
What happens if you get one from out of state, you don't pay it?
If it's one of, you could end up getting a driver's license.
You go out of state.
Oh, yeah. All the states, they would transfer, they would then transfer it to real court, okay? And the real court, would either, you get a notice, and you didn't take care of it, they either exhibit one for your arrest and or suspended driver's license. All states are in a compact together to suspend driver's licenses for people who don't go back to court. And some states issue extra ones, now we're not, they would expedite you back to California, Georgia. But I'd probably take it back to mine. We might go down to Bernardino. We don't have.
How many flock cameras are in Putnam County? I know they used to
We
do
have-
this break-in here at the
I
bridge.
think we have 11, the sheriff's office and the city police have about 10. And, that's the greatest thing we've ever. It's been a
Well, there was a
tremendous-
house right here at Crooked Creek Bridge, you know, that was broken into, and the White House security camera picked it up, and then the flock camera down there on Scuffleboro picked them up.
Yeah, it's been a great, it's been probably the greatest thing since. I'm surprised they don't tear them down, and they do, that has started in some places. Where they tear them down.
And how's the, you talked last time you were here about the number of deputies, that you were trying to get more, and that it's still about the
I hired
same?
one. That was the last time I was here. Well, we did pass a new law that I drew up, where now, if we send you to the police academy, and you leave us and go to work somewhere else within 3 years, they have to pay for your training that we paid.
Good.
It was hard getting that law passed, but I think that's gonna help us if we can hire
Change it.
somebody. So they gotta stay here 3 years, or the agency that hires them, or they've got to pay us back, and that is, police academy now is 5 months long. And so, and then we can add on, 90 days of, field training, as we call it. So that's gonna help us tremendously with people leaving after working here for a year, training and stuff Now, I'm gonna tell you one more thing. And I teach, if you get elected sheriff, you have to go to what's called Sheriff's Elect Academy. And I've somehow held political office longer than anybody in the history of Putnam County. And I have this neat slide that I was gonna show you about his fault. I got a picture of Andy Griffiths on one side, y'all might saw it. Andy Griffiths on this side. Buford Puster on this side. Does everybody know who Buford Puster is? I've actually taught some sheriffs this last class, and some of them didn't know who Buford Puster was. And I've got a gauge right there, and a needle, and it's sticking right up there in the middle. And I told them, that's where you need to be, right there. Now, if you need to be Buford Puster, by God be it. Okay, and get it over to her. But you be able to do just as much as you can. And that's how I've done this for 30 years. That and you. The sheriff is never going to be any good, any better than the people who elected him for her. So, keep that name on the phone. And people like you will keep you probably longer than you need to be. Thank y'all so much.